Everyone, I'm Okay Chadiambo, and we welcome you to CyberSafe Foundation's A Day in Life series, where we gain insights into the lives of cybersecurity professionals and learn what it takes to be successful in this field. And also, as we know, the purpose of ADIL is series is to motivate and enlighten the upcoming generation of cybersecurity leaders, which include our Cyber Girls Fellows. So, and also at CyberSafe Foundation, we aim to promote cybersecurity awareness and education throughout all industries. So today, our guest is Mukhtar Kabir. He's a cloud security professional with a wealth of experience in cybersecurity, and I'll read his bio. Mukhtar holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Computer Networks and Security from the University of Maryland Global Campus, and several professional level certifications in the field of cloud computing and cybersecurity. And is a founder of www.yescertified.com, a website dedicated to offering affordable on-demand courses in cloud computing, cloud security, and cybersecurity. Through his classes and continuous mentoring of several of his students, he has been able to secure high-paying jobs. I mean, the students have been able to secure high-paying jobs through his mentoring classes. He has also reached out to the global community using his LinkedIn in the field of cloud computing and cybersecurity, and currently at over 15,000 connections and followers. Wow, that's so good. In addition, he's also the founder of one of the most popular cloud computing and cybersecurity Telegram channels, now with over 15,000 subscribers. His Telegram channel has been featured in several articles by well-known cybersecurity companies. Wow, that's so beautiful. So, hi, Mukhtar. We're happy that you've joined us today in our day in life of a cloud security professional. Kindly, please introduce yourself briefly to our participants.
Yeah, hi everyone. And okay, thanks for that introduction. My name is Mukhtar Kabir, um, and I am originally from Nigeria. As you just heard. Um, I moved to the United States in 2010 um, from Nigeria and went to uh, a local community college in Maryland, United States. And then from there, I went on to a four-year university to get my Bachelor of Science in Computer Networks and Security. And then after that, it's mostly been just working after that. Um, that's in a nutshell, a brief summary about me. Of course, in
Oh,
addition to what you said.
thank you. Thank you so much. So, as we start our conversation today, can you please tell us a bit about your career journey in cybersecurity? Like, what really motivated you to pursue a career in cloud security? And we are really interested in hearing what inspired you to pursue this path and how you got to where you are today. And, like, was there any particular moment or experience that made you realize that, this is what I really want to do? We really love to hear your story. Yeah.
So with regards to my career in cybersecurity, cloud security, it started when I was in college here. I started my degree, Associate of Applied Science degree in electrical engineering. So in the first year of that degree, I felt like uh, there was just a lot going on, right? There were times I would stay up late at night studying for physics and chemistry test the next day. And it wasn't like I was failing my classes. I was doing well in my classes. I was getting good grades, but it just felt like, I don't know. I felt like that wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. So I looked a little more into the curriculum and read about another career path that they had, and that was a major, as we call it, and that was in networks and wireless technology. So I read the description, I read everything. I was like, okay, I think this sounds more like what I would really, I want to get into, and also because some of the people I knew around me then also were into IT, and they're making some good money, right? So that also made me think about that career, and also because it is technology related, right? It is technology related. So I took on, I switched majors from electrical engineering to information technology, and I chose that a major, which is networks and wireless technologies. Um, and what else can I tell you about that? I didn't look back after that, right? So the classes, the courses, the networking classes, I remember as well. We were making cables, we were, connecting computers over networks. Um, some security related classes as well that I took during those years made me realize that this is really what I wanted to do. So that's how that kind of happened.
Wow, thank you so much. Like, I love the way you say that you started like studying a different degree. That's when you realize, oh, you really want to get into networks, and you got into it. So, and we really want to know, like, what's some of the challenges that you've really encountered in your career journey, like, and how have you overcome them? For example, we've seen how you've highlighted you moving from one course to another. We really want to know what some of the highlights of your career as a cloud security professional so far, and what lessons have you learned from them?
Yeah. So, so if I understand your question correctly, you're asking about some of the challenges and highlights of my career so far.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. I'd say the biggest challenge was, when I got my degrees, right? Um, uh, Before that, adding to the previous question, um, a lot of the people that were talking about this career then were like, it's easy to get a job, you just, do it, get the degree and all of that. So I did that, right? Also knowing the fact that I did enjoy what I was doing, right? It wasn't like I was doing it for like the money, right? I just want to get in because I'm gonna make good money in IT. No, when I actually got into it, it was these were things I enjoyed. Now the challenges came when I was ready to find a job in the cybersecurity field, right? So I finished with, a very the title of my degree, I would say, is like, computer networks and security, right? When people see that on my resume, they feel like, okay, let's give them an interview, but that wasn't the case. I wasn't getting the interviews as I expected. Um, so what I did was, I decided to, go do something that is, uh, should I say, extraordinary? I don't know if that's the right word, but um, as I stayed longer not getting a job in the field, even with that degree, I did at some point get IT help desk jobs, right? But that wasn't exactly what I wanted. So it was really challenging at that time to really get into the cybersecurity field. So what I did, and what I would like to encourage everyone is, I remember at some point in college, someone told me about a certification, right? The CISSP certification. So as time went on, I was doing like IT help desk job, with like helping fix computers and all of that, knowing that that's not what I wanted to do. I decided to tell myself, you know what, why don't you just pursue that certification that you heard about in school that, and when I heard about it, it was like, oh, this is a very tough certification exam. It's a professional exam. Don't even think about it unless you have like basic security certifications. I said I was going to do something different, right? I wasn't going to follow like what people told me that, don't go for the CISSP, but if you go for it and you get it at some point, it really make you stand out. So what I did, um, at that time when I was like almost, should I say, fed up, right, with not getting a job in cybersecurity. I then decided to really, go for the CISSP certification, and this was the game changer in my career, right? So what I said to myself is, I'm not going to go for lower level certifications like Security Plus or anything like that. I'm going to dedicate time and try to, get the right resources and materials to study for the Certified Information System Security Professional certification. So when I got that certification, okay, and I've written an article about it online on the resources I use for that. Trust me, it became the game changer for me in getting a job in cybersecurity, right? And the first job I got with a cybersecurity title was as a big four consulting company, and that was at Deloitte. So I'm going to pause there, and I hope that answers your question around the challenges I faced as I was trying to get into the field and what I did, to start getting, interviews related to cybersecurity.
Yes, I've actually answered the question the way we expected you to, so don't worry about that. And we really know that it's clear that cybersecurity is actually a rapid evolving industry, and it can be tough to know which specialty to focus on. So, as a cloud security engineer, we want to know your day-to-day roles. Like, can you give us some insights into how your roles differ from other cybersecurity roles? Like, what are some of the specific knowledge that you need to succeed in this particular field that are in cloud security? Well, I know that it might be fascinating to work with the cutting edge cloud technology. So we'd love to hear more about your experiences.
Mhm. Um, so before I go into that, I think one of the things I wanted to touch on regards to highlights of my career. If I remember, that was one of the questions in your previous question, right? That was one of the
Yes.
highlights. So in terms of highlights, I'm just going to be brief about it. I think some of the key highlights in terms of my career so far is being a speaker at a conference that's hosted by AWS, and also getting a promotion on the job. Those are some of the big highlights of my career so far. So it's something that stands out on my resume till today, that Mukhtar Kabir spoke at AWS Reinforce conference, right? And I have a badge that they gave me for doing that. And also the other highlight is getting promoted on the job. And now to go to your question about some of the specific roles. Do you mind repeating
Yes,
that question?
your roles as a cloud security engineer, like what do you do on a normal day-to-day basis at work?
So, as a cloud security architect, well, my particular role, right, I'm called a solutions architect, right? And within my day to day, I am part of what you refer to as, a cloud security engineer or security specialist that's helping address cloud security related concerns for customers and partners. So in this role, what I would typically do is help customers, address security concerns as they move to the cloud, right? Customers are moving to the cloud, and they have concerns around, things like threat detection, right? They probably are used to certain ways of doing that in their on-premises environment. So when they come to the cloud, they want to be able to understand, you know, uh, um, how to better protect whatever resources they're deploying in the cloud. So my job is to talk about things like security best practices, right? Most of the times, customers will come with a problem statement, right? We're going to be, for example, hosting a website, right? We're going to leverage services such as EC2 instances. If you're familiar with AWS and you know what EC2 instances are, think of them as virtual machines in the cloud, right? So we're going to have virtual machines. We're going to deploy websites. How can we better protect the applications that we're running on this server? So I will talk to them about, threat detection, about web application firewalls, right? How can they protect these applications from things like uh, cross-site scripting, right? SQL injection, cross-site request forgery, all the different types of attacks that their applications can be exposed to. Um, uh, Part of this is also sometimes customers will come to me with, how they plan to deploy their application in the cloud. So one thing I do most of the time as well is look at how customers are designing what they need to put in the cloud and say, look, Mr. Customer or Mr. Partner. Sometimes I mostly work with partners, right, as opposed to direct customers. But in either case, they have an architecture. I look at it and I say, well, here we need to put a firewall, right? Well, here, if one of the concerns you're talking about is protecting from distributed denial of service. Okay, Mr. Customer or Mr. Partner, here is a service here in the cloud that you can leverage to protect your resources from all of the different types of cyber attacks. So that's kind of what I do on a day-to-day, being first a generalist solutions architect, right, addressing different types of cloud concerns, but then specifically around security. I'm also part of what you call a security a TFC, technical field community, right? So whatever customers and partners have security related questions, with some of these examples that I gave, um, I am part of those security specialists that can help address those security concerns. So I hope that helps with
Yeah.
understanding some of the things I do on the job.
Yes, definitely. That's good. And actually, a follow-up question after you told us like your roles in that. Let's now talk about like the impact of cloud technology and security. It's not that cloud technology has really changed the game in the digital world. So, as a can you please explain to us some of the benefits and risks of using cloud-based security solutions? And it would be great if you give us some examples to better understand these concepts.
Yeah. So in terms of the way cloud technologies have impacted how we approach security, I would say it has impacted in many positive ways, right? Um, Today, we we're able to leverage sophisticated tools in the cloud today, right? That allows us to easily detect threats in our environment. So, for example, um, today when you're thinking about security in the cloud, right? These cloud service providers already provide uh, tools that allows you to easily detect several types of threats in your environment, right? I'll give you an example. An example of a service I typically recommend to customers and partners is Guard Duty, right? Which is a threat detection solution. And this has impacted, just trying to drive this to the question that you asked, right? With tools like Guard Duty, for example, right? It allows me as someone who is maybe, for example, a cloud security engineer on a team, to be able to easily look at a console and see what are some of the security findings, right? Prioritized, right? Um, it's not about me now sitting and looking at logs, right, and trying to make sense out of logs. You have tools in the cloud today that I would say are just game changers, right? In how efficient they allow us to work, right? Some of these tools is just a one-click button, right? In the cloud, you just click a one to enable these tools. You click on a button, and you're able to start seeing all of the different findings in your environment. For example, you have a user that is accessing a malicious website, Bitcoin mining, talking to IP addresses that are known to be used by bad actors. All of that I'm easily able to see in my console, right? With these tools. These tools leverage artificial intelligence and machine learning to allow us to be able to easily today identify threats in our environment, right? The other way that cloud has impacted how we approach security today is, again, in a positive light, is um, the cloud allows us to implement security controls much easily, right? Implementing security controls today in environments can be very expensive, right? Especially when you need to put in controls that are required by some uh, third-party security standards, right? We need to implement security controls for PCI DSS, um, you name it, right? Some laws, GDPR. When you leverage cloud security solutions today, adhering to those security standards and requirements becomes very easy, right? You don't have to build things from scratch because you have tools that allows you to easily do that. Now, when it comes to assessing the security risks of cloud environment, right, several factors come into place, right? One of those is, you know, um, governance, right? You want to be able to uh, better understand how you need to govern your environment, right? Having proper account of all of the users and resources in your environment. Uh, Part of that is also being able to classify information, right? You don't want to put a there's a way we say it in the cybersecurity field, like put a $20,000 padlock on information that is worth $5, right? So you want to be able to classify, your data, your resources, right? Most critical to less important, right? So these are some of the ways that you need to start assessing the some of the risks that you're going to come across in a cloud environment. Also, knowing what security standards you need to adhere to, right, is very important. All right. If you're deploying, for example, financial applications in the cloud, you need to be able to know how to, adhere to PCI DSS standards. Um, and the way we, look at addressing some of these concerns is, of course, better governance, right? And again, with that, there are several tools in the cloud that allows us to address this, you know, uh, governance related concerns, right? There are tools in the cloud that allows us to be able to easily, again, I think I mentioned this in my previous in one of my previous response, that the cloud allows us to easily be able to adhere to whatever security compliance requirements we need to adhere to, right? And I can talk more about it if anyone has specific questions around all of this. But let me pause there. I know I've said a lot so far, and see if you have any other questions around those, or if there's something I didn't address.
Oh, you've addressed everything. Thank you so much for the explanation. So, this for our participants. In case you have any questions, feel free to put it on the chat box. We'll answer it after our conversation. And also, back to you, Kabir. As someone who has achieved a lot of success in the field of cloud security, you must have some valuable insights and advice for those of us who are looking to follow in your footsteps. As you know, majority of our participants are our cyber girls for the Cyber Girls Fellowship. So, for someone who's just starting out and looking to gain experience and expertise in cloud security, what are some of the most common career entry level paths that you will recommend for them? And if there are any other particular areas of technologies within cloud security that are especially in demand right now that they can get into?
Yeah, and that's a very loaded question, but I'll do my best to to respond as best as I can. So, some entry level paths, and my advice, in getting in is, as you're thinking, I want to go into cloud security, choose one platform and learn that platform very well. Okay. It becomes difficult when you try to, you know, learn multiple things at the same time, right? You want to learn AWS, you want to learn Azure, you want to learn GCP all at the same time. Why? Because you think everyone is talking about it. For me, what I did was, what is the most popular out there, right? And I'm just going to focus on that. right? So when I started getting more into cloud, I decided, I'm just going to learn AWS. Right. So my advice for everyone here is, choose one. I don't know what's popular in the country you're in, but I think globally, I can say that AWS is more popular. Right. I know for some countries, Azure is popular. Maybe in some countries, GCP might be popular, but here in the United States, for example, AWS is the most popular. Right. So I chose that one, and I decided, to pursue certifications in AWS. Now the experience is not there yet, but the goal was get these certifications and use that to learn the skills required, to do the work that is required of these cloud jobs, right? So I did that. I started with the Solutions Architect Associate certification, right? So after that, I decided, since things I want to do is more related to cybersecurity, what security certification does AWS provide? Um, I decided to go, I found out about that, and that was the security specialty certification. So I went for that after my solutions architect associate. First, when you choose a platform, try to learn the basics of that platform. All right, you choose AWS. You can't choose AWS today and say, I'm just gonna go and try to get the security specialty certification. Right, I don't recommend that at all. Start with the foundational certification for that cloud platform, right? And get that certification, especially if you don't have experience yet, right? Don't just want to go and put on your resume, I took this Udemy class and that Udemy class. That's great, but really certifications will make you stand out. Remember what I mentioned in the beginning of this session as well, how I got into cybersecurity, right? It was actually pursuing that professional level certification, right? Telling myself that I could do it, right? And that's one thing you always need to also remind yourself, right? Don't say that something is difficult. All of these professional levels certification that you see me get today, um it took time and effort and a lot of repetition, right? um so a key call out for all of you today is really look into getting, certified in this area, right? And again, remember, choose one certification, right? You choose one certification. You start with the foundational levels, you know, exams or certificates that are provided by that platform, as the example that I've just given in AWS, and then move on to the security aspect of it, right? Now, after that, what happened was I got a call, right? I remember I don't have any cloud background so far. All I have is just this certification. So I have the associate level and I have the security specialty. So I got a call from an AWS manager, right? That is in the security department, if you may call it, right? I was working at Deloitte. Not, I didn't get a call. I got a message on LinkedIn, right? And he reached out to me about a job in, supporting the AWS security services, and that was how, pretty much, it kicked off, right? Me getting more into cloud and getting the experience. I would say, the search definitely made me stand out. I know there's a whole lot of debate out there about certifications versus experience. If you don't have experience, pursue certs. You want to write that down in your notes somewhere. You can see that has really, really worked for me so far. In terms of jobs, um, getting in, finding entry level jobs, there's several out there, and I didn't start. There's several that you'd see out there, right? Cloud security analyst, cloud security engineer, cloud security architect. um, for starters, I would say really, really focus first on building yourself, right, and building your resume, right? Learn the skills that are required, right, first. And again, I think I'm going to repeat myself again. Without Start with the certifications, right? Start with the certifications, get certified, and then start applying to cloud security jobs that you find online, right? And some of the searches that I'll, you know, easily put today in the cloud is, cloud security engineer, right? Cloud security analyst. So you want to write down those titles, look for those titles, um, and with a good resume, displaying your certifications, um, talking about your curiosity to learn. Hopefully, something would you will work out at some point for you. I'm gonna pause there, and I know I've said a lot, but yeah, I hope that's helpful.
Oh, thank you so much. So this is just a short question following up on what you've just answered. We really want to know, like, are there where we can get these opportunities for entry level? Do you have like any platform that you can just suggest for those of us who are interested in pursuing cloud security?
Mm. So when when it comes to platforms that I recommend, definitely number one on the list would be LinkedIn. Right? If you're not on LinkedIn, you have to get on LinkedIn. Get a LinkedIn account if you don't have a LinkedIn account. LinkedIn allows you to filter job searches based on level, right? So what you want to do is, for example, you enter cloud security in the search, and then you filter by entry level, right? And see all the different entry level positions that are out there. Um, uh, Other ways as well is, don't just leverage LinkedIn, but LinkedIn should be top of the list, right? Also look at other platforms like Indeed, right? Um, Actually, those are the only two I'd recommend for now. I know there are others like Monster, and I haven't used those in a long time, so I don't really, want to speak much about those. But the number one go-to for me is LinkedIn, right? And then I also have my resume on Indeed. To be very honest and transparent, it will be difficult at first, right? And the goal is to not give up, right? I can't tell you how many applications I've submitted, all right? Um, Sometimes you read on LinkedIn, people submit over, 200, 500 applications, and, nothing works out, right? What I tell, for example, my mentees is, it's okay to, okay, let's say you're starting now, give yourself like up to a year, right? And say maybe by the end of, in 12 months, hopefully I have a job, right? But what you want to continue doing is just building your skills and putting yourself out there, right? Whatever you're learning today in terms of cloud. Let's say, for example, you take my advice, you start with the AWS Solutions Architect Associate, all right? If that's what's, popular in your country, you start with that. Whatever you're learning in that, whatever hands-on you do, write about it on LinkedIn. Recruiters are watching, and trust me, all of my mentees that I've told to do this, you know, those are some of the, reviews that you see on my website, right? They really follow all of this recommendations that I give them, right? So whatever you're learning today, as you start to, look into getting into cloud security, write one or two things about it to enlighten others about it on LinkedIn. There's an article online today by, by someone that I recommended to write an article on LinkedIn. Till today, I still get notified on likes about that article, right? Over hundreds of likes on that article today, and that person has a very good job today, and they're I think they're somewhere in Egypt, right? They're not even the United States. So they took the time, they listened to that advice, they wrote an article on some of the labs that they did, right? And one of the labs, one of my YouTube videos, right? And that lab teaches how to deploy a dynamic application, right? Till today, people are still liking that article, and I get notified of it because I was tagged in that article. So really, really share your journey on LinkedIn. If you want to even do away with Indeed, put that on the side and just focus on LinkedIn, because trust me, I feel like all recruiters are on LinkedIn. right? There's no recruiter out there today that is not using LinkedIn, to find, people that are curious to learn. If you have a curiosity to learn, the job will come, no doubt about it, right? Just don't focus on, I want to, get, this classic certification to earn a lot of money, right? Yes, these jobs, right, pay really good money. There's no doubt about it, but that shouldn't be the driver, right? The ultimate driver for you to want to do this is your curiosity to learn. You're wanting to help, protect, IT environments, right? And ultimately people, right? At the end of the day. Um, so I'm gonna pause there. I know I've said a lot, and I think I went to a few tangents here and there, but I hope that's
Yeah,
helpful.
that was good. It was straightforward because in our Cyber Girls Fellowship, we always encourage our fellows to have a LinkedIn account, especially those who are just getting into cybersecurity. So that's actually a very good advice. So away from technical things, we really want to know how you make critical decisions that are implicating the organization that you work with. Like, can you walk us through your problem solving and decision making processes when faced with a new security challenge? Like, are there any specific methodologies or frameworks that you rely on? Yes.
Yeah. So can you rephrase the question again? Just,
Like, we want to know, I want us to you to walk us through your problem solving and decision making processes when you're faced with a new security challenge. Like, are there any specific frameworks that you rely on?
so in terms of problem solving and decision making, as I work with customers, what you always want to do is, make sure you understand the problem, right, before you start to talk about the solution, right? At the end of the day, uh, for the type of role that I'm in, I try to earn my customers' trust, right? Or if you find yourself in a company and you're the cloud security architect for that company, you want to be seen within your company as, a trusted advisor, right, in terms of security. So, um, coming back to your question around um, how I go about problem solving, again, first, making sure that I understand what the problem is, right? A customer cannot be talking to me about, protecting data, right, in the environment, and I'm going on another tangent, right? I'm talking about something completely outside of the scope of what they're asking. So it means that I didn't understand the problem, right? So my approach first is making sure that I fully understand what the problem is, right? And then sometimes, right, in most cases actually, I don't just on the fly right there, as I'm getting to understand the problem, start talking about solutions, right? In most cases, it requires you as a cloud engineer to really think about what the best solution to that problem is, right? So a lot of this involves a lot of research as well, right? And I guess adding here is, yes, you're going to learn a lot of things, right, when you get these certifications, but most of your learning comes on the job, right? So again, for me, understand the problem, you know, do research, right, on the best approach to solving that problem. There are usually multiple ways, right, to solve a problem, right? So, for example, let's say a customer wants to talk about, how they can protect web applications, right, in AWS, right? At the top of my mind, you know, I'm thinking, okay, we need to put in web application firewalls, right? But beyond that, there are other considerations that also need to put in place, right? So I don't know, what other example can I give? I wouldn't just tell the customer, okay, Mr. Customer, just go ahead and turn on a web application firewall, right? I first need to understand, the goals, right? Their goals and objectives, right? Um, why they're looking to implement, to protect these web applications, right? The sensitivity, right? Or let me say, the the level of the risk appetite, right, for this customer, right, would also factor into how I recommend implementation of whatever solutions I bring to the table. Um, in other words, there's a lot to it, right? When it comes to how you go about problem solving, just know that it's not always a one size fit all, right, type of approach that you're going to leverage. You're going to have to, on the job, do research, right? And my research, I read a lot of books, right? I'm always looking for like new books that talks about cloud security to find out other approaches, right, to solving problems. One of the things also, when it comes to problem solving, is making sure that the cloud providers provide what we call security best practices, right? As a security architect, a cloud security architect, a cloud security engineer, I need to make sure that I know what these are, what these best practices are. That will help in my, problem solving for different use cases. I'm gonna pause there, um, and see if that was helpful with addressing that question.
Yes, that was actually helpful. So I just have like a follow up for us who are interested to pursue cloud security. Like, given your wealth of experience in this field, we really love to hear your advice for us who are looking to advance our careers in this area. Like, what are some common mistakes that you've seen people make when they're trying to progress into cloud security, and how can we avoid them? Like, there any specific skills. It doesn't have to be technical skill, like even like the soft skills that I should have when I really want to get into this career area.
Yeah, I think when it comes to soft skills, um, number one on the top of my mind here is, just good communication, right? Be able to communicate, effectively, with your teams and the broader teams. On the job, I need to work with, different teams on occasions. So having, good communication skills, right, excuse me, is very, very important. Um, what was what was the other question you asked me just now? Apart from soft skills, you mentioned something also.
Like, what are some common mistakes that you've seen, people getting into, like new people getting into cloud security making, and how do you feel like we should avoid those kind of mistakes?
Yeah, so common mistake, I think I'll go back to one of the things I mentioned earlier, is, doing multiple things at the same time, right? You you want to, you know, learn cloud security, but you're you're going into different areas at the same time, right? Focus on one thing and focus on one platform, right? Um, with that said, what I would recommend is, again, like I just said, focus on one platform and learn that platform well, right? Once you start going into, okay, I need to learn security about Azure, about AWS, about Google Cloud, it becomes a lot on you, right? Um, so some of the mistakes that I see people, and when I say students that I've mentored, right, I'm teaching them about XYZ, and they're coming to me with, other things that they see online, right? And I think the most important thing here is to find a mentor, right? And I'm happy there's, Cyber Safe Foundation that allows the students to be able to, to have good mentors, right? And really, pay attention to what your mentors are recommending. The most success I've had with students is students that actually just, uh, you know, follow, I don't know what the right word is here. Just follow my recommendations, right? And not go into different tangents. Like, oh, someone is talking about, penetration testing in the cloud. So I want to look into that as well. Someone is talking about, auditing in the cloud. So I want to also, yes, these are good things to have, high level understanding of what that entails, but not as something you want to say, okay, I want to be hired as a penetration tester. I want to be hired as an auditor. I want to be hired as, a generalist, cloud security engineer. Focus on one thing, and for me, that has been threat detection, right? And when you think about this, you say things like, a blue team, right, in a cybersecurity environment, right? Really thinking about how you protect, resources, right, in a given organization. So, I think my biggest recommendation for you, for people here that are starting, is don't learn multiple things at the same time. Focus on one thing, right? Start with one platform that you can learn good, and just go from there. Um, that's my recommendation there for all of you.
Thank you so much. Actually, at CyberSafe, the Cyber Girls Fellowship, we actually just encourage them to choose one path that they can like go on with it in cybersecurity, and we just say the exact same thing. So we're almost coming to the end of our interview, and we want our participants to write down the questions that they have for our guest speaker. So as we come to the end of this interview, we really love to learn about you on a personal level, like we've just been talking about your career. Like
Yeah.
you want to know how you balance your work and life. We know it's really challenging, especially in the dynamic field like cloud security. Can you please tell us also other things that you're passionate about outside cybersecurity that can help you relax and recharge after a busy day at work? Like, also, how do you like strike the balance between your personal interests and your professional responsibilities? Thank you.
Yeah. Great question, loaded question as well. Personal balance between, professional career and I think it's, again, it all comes with just communication, right? Um, I'm a very, very busy person in terms of, family. I have two boys, right? I'm married and I have two boys. And yes, it is tough at times, right? Um, but one thing I always make sure to do is, you know, uh, communicate with my wife, right? Especially when there are certain times that I have to do things extra, right? For the job. Um, One of the things I do is, you know, scheduling quality time with family, right? I like to go out on weekends, not look at emails from work, right? So with my job, it's not like I'm some type of rotation, or I have to check 24/7 if something is going down or anything like that. At least in my own role, it's not like that, right? So one thing I also do is I play basketball whenever I can, right? So I use that to recharge, to stay fit. um so I would say spending quality time with family, right? And not thinking about work, right? Making sure that the family has a good time, on weekends, go on road trips, right? And then also there's that sports part of me. I actually played semi-professional basketball in Nigeria before I came here. So coming here, now it's more of a leisure type activity. So that helps me just rewind and you know um, get back to work on next Monday, right? Energetic and all that. So that's I hope that answers your question.
Yes, that's so good. And I love that you also like play basketball because most tech people are always known to be just on their laptop, maybe
Yeah,
laptop farming, but at least you have a hobby somewhere that you're doing. That's so good. And I
yeah.
really love how you say you're striking the balance between your personal interests and your professional responsibilities, which is actually amazing, especially for some of us who we are really trying to know how we have to balance our own personal life and
Mm.
our work life. So we're going to our questions, and just a moment. We have our question from Lolly. She's asking, like, was there any time you were faced with tackling discrimination issue even at your workplace, considering the fact that you're a professional in the US? How did you handle it?
Oh, that's a tough one. Was there any time you were faced with tackling discrimination? And this is what I recommend to all of you, right? And some of you, who knows, you may end up here in the United States or some other place in the world, where most people don't look like you, right? In terms of, I don't know, is it, color, ethnicity. My own thing has always been to just focus on what I can bring to the table, right? Um, and this is not to say that there is no discrimination, right, in workplaces. I'm not going to tell you that has ended, right? But here's one thing I can tell you: just focus on building yourself, right? You're pursuing a career in cloud security. Make sure you stand out, right? Um, uh, and that will speak a lot for you, right? Um, in terms of like directly facing discrimination in the workplace, uh, I wouldn't say I have faced that personally, right? Because again, what I always focus on is building, you know, you know, myself and my skills and what I can bring to the table, right? Um, that's what I can say to this question. Um, just, just stand out in a good way, right? Stand out in a good way, contribute to the team. Um, whatever ideas you have, that you want to talk about in your team that you're working on, don't be shy and say, maybe someone is not, they're not going to listen to me because this, because that. Look, everyone on the team is white, is whatever, and I'm this. Who's going to listen to me? Let me just follow what others say. No, really, people want to hear you, right? Especially when you've been hired, to do the job that you're expected to do, right? Contribute as much as you can. Don't downlook your ideas, right? There's several ideas that I've brought to the team that I work on, and I'm happy to say that those ideas were valued, right? So the workplace is important. A workplace that fosters diversity, and all of that, that promotes diversity. Yeah, you also want to make sure that you look into the company that you want to apply to, right? And make sure it's a company that respects diversity and yeah, that's all I can say about that. Um, yeah, just focus on building yourself, and you won't have too much issues with worrying about discrimination or anything like that. I know
Oh,
maybe that wasn't the answer you were looking for, but from my experience, that's what I can tell you. Right. The more I focus on, building myself, being better at what I do, the less I see that you know uh, being done to me. Right. If I may say. Yeah.
oh, nice. So, second question is, please, what are the core certification and skill sets you need to get a cloud security engineering entry role? I think the skill set part you've already tackled, even the certifications. Maybe if you can just do a fast answer to that question.
Yeah. Certifications to really really challenge yourself and make you stand out. The CISSP and the CCSP. Look, the CISSP, I went for it when I had no experience in cybersecurity, right? I just bought the books. I looked online. What are some resources that individuals have used? I challenge myself, and this is what I tell people: is I challenge myself when it comes to. Can you go back to that question? I think the question was just on the screen. I challenge myself to go for a professional level certification, and I always tell myself that if anyone asks you, just tell everyone that they can do it as well, right? But if you don't want to do that, if you think that that's too much of a risk to just go for a professional level certification like the CISSP, and if you're in the US or wherever you are in the world, it is expensive to take, right? And it is, but and it is somewhat of a, some people will say difficult, but I don't like to say difficult, right? Because when you start saying something is difficult, you start to see it as difficult, right? So if you don't want to do that because maybe it's expensive, it's time consuming, then the Security Plus certification, at least start with the Security Plus certification, right? That's if you have like zero experience at all, right? So start with that Security Plus from CompTIA, and then you start to go into cloud, right? But don't jump into like a cloud security specialty certification. Start with a foundational one, right? So for all of you here, if you're interested in cloud security, I know I mentioned AWS foundational certification and then the security. I'll I'll actually add here, right, the Security Plus, because you learn a lot of security fundamentals that will go a long way, in your career. So Security Plus, AWS Solutions Architect Associate, AWS Security Specialty certification. If the platform you've chosen to learn is AWS, right? Well, across the board, Azure, GCP, or AWS, start with the Security Plus certification, because that will allow you to learn a lot of basics. Did I do that? No, I skipped it and I went for the professional level certification just because I wanted to challenge myself. But as if you want to do that again, yes, you can do it. I always recommend students to watch a video called titled "Grit" by Angela Lee Duckworth, right? And I highly encourage everyone to look for that video on YouTube. It's called GRIT, Grit, and I think there's something more to it, by a lady called Angela Lee Duckworth. It's a TED Talk. It's a 6-minute TED Talk, right? If you set a mind to it, you can do it. So I hope that helps answer that question about the core certifications and skill sets. Security Plus.
Yes. Yes. So our next question is, what kind of programming languages are needed in cloud security?
Type of programming languages, if you're going to choose one, I'll say choose Python. Okay. And what I also tell students is, for example, I myself, I'm not a developer, right? But I needed to learn the basics of programming, right? In Nigeria, I actually went to some training school called NIT, where I learned the basics of Java. But being in the field and seeing, how we, write different automation scripts, I noticed most people use Python, right? And so that's why in learning this myself and in recommending it to others, I say, what kind of programming languages are needed? Um, I said, learn Python, right? And you're not learning to be a professional Python developer. No, you're just learning it to be able to, you know, to do some basic automations, understand when you look at a Python code, what it's doing. Yeah. So if you're going to choose one, choose Python programming.
Wow, thank you so much. Actually, we've come to the end of our conversation today. And we really want to thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights and expertise with us. It was truly an honor talking to you. You're amazing, and we've learned so much from you, from experiences in cloud security. And also, we really love your answers. They were engaging, they're informative, and I know even our audience are so happy to listen to you speak to us today. Also, to our participants, we thank you so much for joining us and for your active participation. And we hope that the session was informative to you too. And for that, we'll have to end our show. We want to really thank our partners from Hack the Box, AWS Training Certification, Cisco, InfoSec, AWS, and Microsoft. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today.
And please feel free to
Bye-bye.
join me on to find me on LinkedIn. Add me, ask me questions. I'll be more than happy. I love mentoring and helping others as best as I can, as much as I can. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Definitely, we'll do that.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.